Well, as we get ready to close out the 2019 season, obviously we end with the Lena Winslow Panthers as the state champions with a 58-20 win over Central A&M. Lena Winslow captures their second 14-0 season in school history, as their previous one had come just 3 seasons ago in the 2017 season. Obviously, their second perfect season in the past 3 seasons as well. With the title, they become the first NUIC team to win 4 titles. All 4 titles have come in this decade, with the first one starting in 2010 with their running clock game over Tuscola 47-14. And then, they end the decade with another one in a running clock fashion this year to improve to 4-0 in their state title games. Coach Aaron has tied his former coach, John O'Boyle, with the most title game appearances by an NUIC coach with 4, and he surpasses his good friend and former Dakota coach, Jerry Lano, with his 4th state title, breaking a tie between those two that had 3 state titles. Obviously, Lena Winslow set quite a few records on the day, which was quite impressive. One was they became the first NUIC team to surpass 6,000 yards in a season. They finished with 6,167 yards. This puts them at 18th in IHSA history, and the previous NUIC mark was held by the 2012 Stockton Blackhawks with 5,945 yards. Lena Winslow would rush for 5,148 yards on the season, which finishes 3rd most in the NUIC, behind 2016 Forreston with 5,300 yards and the 2012 Stockton team that finished with 5,490 yards. And they sit in 10th place all-time in IHSA history as well at that 5,148 yards. The Panthers would score 58 points, which broke the previous record held by the 2002 South Beloit Sobos that had 50 points prior as the new Class 1A state title game scoring record. They would also score 678 points on the season, which is good for the 15th highest scoring amount in IHSA history, 2nd most in the NUIC behind the 2012 Stockton Blackhawks that finished with 686 points scored. So quite an impressive feat for the Lena Winslow Panthers here in 2019. This game also culminated with the 10th running clock that they've had on the season. They actually outscored their opponents on average 48-12 with a scoring mark of 678, an opponent's scoring mark of 167. And if you actually take a look at the total games that they've played, their starters gave up 82 points on the season, which was good for just shy of 6 points per game is what their starters gave up out of that 167 points scored. So it's very clear that this was definitely one of the most dominant teams we have ever seen come out of the NUIC. Obviously, there's a lot of talk. Is this the best 1A team in history of the IHSA? That, of course, is up to everybody's perception. Can they be talked about as one of the best Class 1A teams ever? Definitely. To say that they're best, it's hard. You're putting up different teams from different eras, but it was definitely a fantastic season, to say the least. So let's recap the game a little bit here with the Raiders. Obviously, Lena Winslow would get up quick, 14-0 in the first quarter. They actually had a 3rd drive that was halted at the Central A&M 18-yard line, negated by penalties, of course, which set them back that they couldn't overcome. And that ultimately led to the worst starting position on the field that day for the Raiders, but it also ended up being their first touchdown drive of the game as they drove 82 yards, punctuated by a 4th and 12 pass play that went for 41 yards from Connor Heaton to James Parody, and then it was capitalized for the score on a 5-yard touchdown pass from Heaton to Jacob Parody for the touchdown. Obviously, on the very next drive, Sean Ormiston would set the NUIC rushing record with a 35-yard touchdown run that was emphasized by a stiff arm to a poor defender, which has become his signature move. Obviously, he would add another touchdown later in the second quarter for his third of the day. And then to end out the second quarter, the Raiders would score again on their second longest drive of the day, starting from their own 22-yard line to bring the score to 26-12 in favor of Lena Winslow at the break. And at that time, we thought we had a pretty good game going. Obviously, Lena Winslow was going to come out of the half with the ball, and right away they took it to Central A&M with a drive that was just over 5 minutes long to get another touchdown for Ormiston. Just over 2 minutes later, Ormiston would score again for what would become his 5th touchdown of the game, which set a Class 1A state title game record for most rushing touchdowns in the Class 1A state championship game. And then just 43 seconds later, he would return an interception 46 yards for his 6th touchdown of the game. That actually set a mark for most touchdowns scored in a game and most points scored by an individual player in a game with 36 points. The clock would start rolling 5 seconds in the fourth quarter as Lena Winslow would put up their 2nd touchdown pass of the game, another Luke Benson to Cade Chrisman connection, this one for 23 yards. And obviously, like we mentioned, that 58 point setting the new Class 1A title mark. Obviously, Central A&M would score then with about 7 minutes left in the game to bring our final score to 58-20. But it was clearly evident that Lena Winslow was the team to beat on Friday, the best team on the field by far, and it wasn't even close. Obviously, on the season, we've talked about, Sean Ormiston breaking the NUIC rushing record. He finishes his career with 4,749 yards rushing and 67 rushing touchdowns. Both are new NUIC records there. His 36 points broke the record of Jay Wessler from Triopia, who set the record with 30 points back in the 1975 state title game. His 6 total touchdowns broke the record of Kenton Patrick of Carthage, Jake Apple of Dakota, Jack Hockaday of Moreau of Forsyth, the previously mentioned Jay Wessler, and Stan Walker of Hampshire. And his 5 rushing touchdowns broke the record of Patrick, Apple, and Hockaday as well. So what an absolute great day for Sean Ormiston to end his magnificent high school career. Obviously, a couple other guys getting big statement wins in their final careers. Cade Chrisman, Isaiah Bruce was a huge factor in the game on Friday as well. Just an emphatic win for the Panthers to get that 4th state title. Obviously, as we take a look over the past decade, Lena Winslow finishes the decade with a record of 108-19. If you take a look at their 4 state titles across Class 1A and Class 2A, they have the most state titles across both classes with their 4th title. 4 of them coming in 2010, 2013, 2017, and now 2019. The teams that they would be in contention with as far as best teams for the decade obviously would be Sterling Newman, who also won their 3rd state title in the decade on Friday with a 35-14 win over Nashville. They bring their decade total record to 115-12 with 3 state titles, also coming in 2010, 2013, and now 2019. And then you have Moreau of Forsyth, who finishes the decade with a record of 112-20. They obviously had their state title back in 2012, And then they had 5 runner-ups in 2010, 2014, 2016, 2017, and 2018. And if you want to throw one more in there, you have the Forest and Cardinals sitting at a record of 98 and 23 for the decade with their 3 state titles coming in 2014, 2016, and 2018. So that gives you a look at the top 4 teams in this decade as far as wins, titles, overall record. It's been quite impressive, to say the least, to watch some of these teams play. We've seen quite a few of them play, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun watching it. But, you know, as we look forward into 2020, obviously we're going to start a new decade of football. We have a lot of stuff taking place here in the off season. Obviously, there's the vote for proposal. Is it proposal 16? Proposal 15. Proposal 15. Which is going to vote, and that's going to see if we get away from the districts and stay with conference scheduling. And that vote's supposed to come to public announcement on December 17th, so we got that to look forward to. Obviously, as we turn the page into the 2020 season, we're going to have another great conference season upon us. Obviously, we're going to change a lot of things as far as what we do moving forward. We're going to stick with a lot of the basics that have got us to the point where we're at, but we're going to add a couple more things. Obviously, we're going to see what else we can help bring forward to you as the viewers of the NUIC conference. Probably touch on some rebranding items and things like that as well. But it's going to be a great look. Obviously, the look to go to the North-South divisions this year was definitely fun to see. You saw a lot of parity in the NUIC. Looking ahead into 2020, we can see more of that even still. So it's going to be a lot of great football, to say the least. For you, the viewers, obviously we want to thank you all for joining us on the season. Both Carrie and I have received a lot of great compliments throughout the course of the season, and to be honest, it humbles us. It makes us feel like we're really appreciated for the work that we do, so we can't thank you enough for that as well. So look forward to another great year, though, and that's pretty much all we can say, because you know, we don't really talk about ourselves. We try to focus on what we do here and try to bring the best product forward for you guys to enjoy what we do, and along with enjoying the NUIC conference as a whole. So until next year, you know, keep supporting your towns, your communities. Got a lot of great sports ahead with basketball, wrestling, baseball, and softball, track and field coming up. And you know, get out there and support your towns, support your teams, support your communities. As always, root for the NUIC.